Thank you.
We're
Thank you,
recording.
Justin.
Is that something new?
You're welcome.
No, well, we need meeting minutes.
We're recording. Everyone that said they were here is here.
There we go.
Didn't say that.
We do have a record.
First, we have the approval of minutes from the December 21st.
Motion to approve?
Second,
Motion by Jerry, second by Darren.
Andrew,
Aye.
Chris,
Abstain? Was I there for, was it, or the last meeting I missed? Is it the, what's the minutes that?
Pat Wojcik. Aye. Paul McDougall,
Aye.
George Willis,
I don't vote.
Allison Janess, Charles Canavos, Bill is there.
Abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Thank you. Karen's not here. Danny Rourke,
Yes.
Jerry Pritchett,
Aye.
Chuck,
I have to abstain, I'm sorry.
okay. Steve,
aye,
nobody from Tewksbury. Anita,
Aye.
Darren,
Aye.
Moving on to the financial report and slash warrant. Bert?
We have whole cash in our accounts of $954,541. In the open account, restricted cash, we have $289,644. I'm expecting accounts receivable as of right now of $98,343. Giving us a net cash total, including receivables, of $1,052,883. I presented checks to Jerry tonight for signature, $4,408. I anticipate another $63,181 in expenses over the next month. That includes commentary and some flyovers, which I'm not sure will happen. If they do, it's there. Between now and the next time we meet, I anticipate another $78,000 in payroll. Total accounts payable $145,589, and that's the warrant. Net cash total, including receivables and less accounts payable, $907,294. Outstanding obligations, advances on the VLTA 15 contract of $54,000. $54,807. Due to granted from the MassDOT contract is $125,827, leaving a net cash total less other outstanding payables of $726,660. Thank you.
Questions for
motion to approve financial report and warrant,
Second.
motion made by Steve, seconded by Darren.
Andrew,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pat. Aye. Paul,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Chuck,
Aye.
Steve,
aye,
Anita,
Aye.
Darren.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to the employee handbook. We started this conversation at the last meeting, and I think it was sent around for anyone that had additional comments. What's in front of you now. Jenny, did you receive any additional comments?
Yes, I did for Pat. And I incorporated them into a draft that I'm sharing on the screen right now, just because it's not the same as what was just circulated. What was circulated included the updates that you requested at the last meeting. And so I think one of them was deleting a section that was contradictory related to employees who decide to run for office or, service on town committees. And it was like a little bit beyond that. So I deleted that section. I made a couple of other edits that were noted during the meeting that were very minor, but then Pat, right before this meeting, gave me a number of other edits. So I'll just quickly roll through, just so we're all aware of them. And it's going to take time, so bear with me. The first one was hours of work. Oh, it's not showing that, hold on. Okay, so I went through and I had done like the getting rid of gender terms, which was like his or her, she, he. And this one, and when I spoke with KP Law about changing those terms, he recommended that in some cases it be the employee. And that's what happened here, but it might not exactly work, right? So I'm making it there. But because this is a little complicated, but there could also mean there, they, them. So that's why it said the employee, but it's sort of a weird sentence when you say at the employee's sole discretion, when you're talking about the person, the one employee that this applies to is the executive director. That's the only employee that we're talking about here. So I think may at their sole discretion probably is perfectly fine. Maybe this doesn't belong there, right? I'm not sure. So that was the edit, which I think it doesn't make sense to say the employee. If that was the suggestion from Pat. And another suggestion was, this is a repeat here, is the same as this section here, but for this first clause. So I added the first clause up there and kept the rest and deleted it here. This is now like rolling through for, unless anybody is like burning to let me know that there's other edits. I think there's like small ones coming at some point. Jane made a comment about, this is only in an email, but it was not like a suggested edit, but that she thinks that it is not ideal to only give employees who are starting or have up to 5 years of service in the system only 80 hours a year of annual leave time. She thinks it should be higher than that, and that would help with recruitment of new employees. So that was a comment, but she did not suggest a specific amount of time or change to this. And this, of course, is a schedule of time. So I think that if you change one part, you kind of, it's a ripple effect. So if you want to do that, that was a suggestion from Jane or a comment, but not a specific recommendation. Rolling. Sorry. If you're dizzy on the Zoom, my apologies.
I just can't read that fast.
I know, I can't really either, but I'm looking for my edits. Let me, you know what? Okay, let me. Why I didn't do that, I don't know. Yeah, I tried to get rid of all of these also per Pat. It was a lot of like the NMCOG, a NMCOG. It was like incorrectly stated. So I went through, but I missed this one. So with that, this is the section that I already mentioned that was prior to Pat's edits. Okay. So there was a question, I think, from Pat, which was regarding, by the way, Pat, you can of course share your question if you would like, but I think it is in relationship to when an employee would an employee ever be allowed to hire other employees other than me, is basically the question. And I think that, it's good to have an employee manual where maybe there is a situation or a circumstance where another employee other than me can hire somebody else. The point here in this clause is that at no period of time can you ever do that if it's on any other basis than an at-will basis, like a contract, or I made this point in the comment, a contract or some other, time-specific term. Could that occur without my approval? So that's when my approval would be required if they're not an at-will employee. In other words, having an impact on our budget because we would be saying, oh, this person is on board for 3 years. By the way, even though we have an annual budget and that's not possible because everybody here is at will. Unless for some reason I agree to that in writing. So that's what this clause is saying. I don't know why it specifically belongs on the acknowledgements page, but this is from KP Law, and that was the explanation as to why it's making that statement.
So one more time, you lost me a little bit.
We only have at-will employees here,
Yeah.
and only I am really tasked with hiring people, but in the
That's the way it should
future,
be.
if some other employees were allowed to hire other people, they can never hire somebody who is not at will. It can, if it was somebody on like a contract term or like a time specific length, you know, like I'm gonna hire somebody on a 3-year contract, that would not be possible without my approval. That's what this is saying. I don't know why, again, it specifically belongs here in the handbook acknowledgement.
Would it be possible that another employee could hire someone? Is that something that happens?
It does not happen.
Okay.
No, and that I think kind of goes back to the structure of this group, which is the personnel committee makes recommendations
Mhm.
and we work together
Okay.
on decisions. So it's a
Other than
little bit
hiring the executive director.
other than
Okay.
executive director. So it might be, I don't think it's,
Extra legalese.
I don't think it's necessary, but I'm letting you know what the response was from KP Law about what this means.
I don't think there's any harm in having it in it. Basically saying if anybody does it, you have to approve it.
I just have to.
Yeah,
approve
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like, you
The
can't hire
little buck
anybody.
stops with you, so.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
that's the
If you
battle.
got a rogue employee out there, so that's the code for you.
It
Yeah.
still has to go through me. So that's, I think, all it's saying, but
That's what it should say.
necessarily mean something more than that. So you want me to keep rolling? Do you want to think about that one? Or do you want to vote it out?
I think it was a great extra paragraph that said.
Why not two extra paragraphs, 20 pages.
There were a number of comments. I had mentioned the gender terms. And there's still a lot of gender terminology actually in sexual harassment law, as well as in the annual, like a parental leave law. It doesn't talk about, you know, gender, there's no gender neutral terminology. Those are laws, and KP Law said, use the legal language that goes with the law, so you can't change the definition. You can't do, he, you know, basically told me not to make those changes, did not advise. So I did not make any of those changes. This is just it, didn't list the name of our agency. I think there was just one more here. And that was it on this part of the document. There is one other thing that was requested, which I'll bring up. Oops. What's this? I'm gonna share it. It was, oh, still a little bit extra, but we didn't put the T in the cost. We just gotta scoop that over. But it was missing. It just said costs here and here, and so that's edited to say cost. We'll make sure that that says cost as well. And those are all the edits that I received. I can put the full document back up if anybody wants me to, or we can keep our screen like this. What is your preference? Want me to put it back?
Is there any section someone had a comment on or suggestion on?
No.
Jay, did you want to vote on this or?
I would like, yes, I would ideally like you to vote on this, please.
So we should vote it as amended, what's in front of us?
It would be voted as amended. Clear on this.
I'll just tack on, I think this is a great step forward. I think I really appreciate everyone who submitted edits and people's reviews, and I think hopefully this brings a lot more security to folks who work here.
Can I just comment, the committee worked on it, but Pat did, again, right to the end, Pat did a great job with the review and the edit, so I give you a lot of credit. I looked at it from a big picture perspective.
You have to look at the little T's,
Yeah.
I's and T's, yeah.
And I just want to thank the personnel committee and the staff who also contributed, particularly Bert, throughout the process, really incredible amount of work over the past couple of months. Of course, didn't hurt to have KP Law, by the way. So thank you for that. And yeah, I do hope it is helpful to all employees. I would imagine that we will amend it from time to time and revisit things as we're using it. And I look forward to any further feedback from staff, of course, and others, if you see anything that needs to be corrected or amended. But thank you again for all the support on this.
Just before they vote, are you, once this is voted, are you gonna be distributing it to staff?
Yeah, I'll make it, I'm gonna finalize it and we're going to use it with all of our new hires.
Awesome.
What about current hires?
I'm going to make it clear that they have to review the manual and re-sign the acknowledgement of the handbook. Because I think it's a brand new document, so everybody has to be on the same page with the document.
Thank you. Okay, Andrew,
All right,
Did we have a motion?
oh, we did not.
we have a motion.
That's still on the handbook.
I'll make a motion then to adopt the employee handbook as amended.
Second,
A motion by Pat, second by Mary.
thank you. Okay. Andrew,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Chuck,
Aye.
Eve,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
Darren.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to resolution to commit matching funds to the LRTA, transit planning contract with the US DOT.
All right. With the resolution, there's basically three parts that I updated to the resolution. So I'll roll through that. The first one is the amount, which is, oh, actually, the first one, sorry about that. The first one is to, this seems rather straightforward, that we would participate in monthly LRTA advisory council meetings to receive progress updates on performance, but it is not in the contract or the resolution, but that is necessary in order to be effective with our contract responsibilities. So I want to make sure that it says that. The other thing is the amount, which the next two is basically the same thing, but one is the contract with the LRTA is to request basically say it's $125,000 through this calendar year for the application, and then the 20% of the total costs would be raised at a different amount than what was previous, what was in the prior year. Do you need me to give it to you?
Yeah, it's not in my packet.
Those are the
Thank
only
you.
few things. I did go back in time to look at the cost of this contract and figure out what has changed over time, because every time I get a new contract since I started working here, I used it as an opportunity to understand what we have to do, who's responsible for doing the work, what are the outcomes, how does it work over time, and to see if we've made changes over time. So there's a lot of examples of that. Mostly Bert is familiar with this process since we've had to go through a lot of different contracts. With this one, I went back in time all the way to 2011, and it looks like 2011, it was $107,000, and it slowly went down to $75,000, that the application to the Federal Transit Authority Administration, the FTA. And that the match went from $26,000 down to $15,000. It's not clear to me why we went so far down when in reality we actually provide a lot of staff service. And so there's 4 tasks that relate to this contract. The first one is mapping or GIS. We only have one person here who does GIS, and they are completely maxed out. And not to mention that that person also does IT work. So there's certainly not enough time for that person to fulfill all of the contract work that they're responsible for. The second task is data collection and analysis, which is also, if you do it right, and we're talking about a bus system that serves the public, there's many opportunities to do that even better. The third one is transit system performance. I probably don't need to say anything about that. The fourth one is regional transit planning. And that's an area where I think we could do better. And I feel like it could work in coordination. And Justin and I have spoken about this with our UPWP and the other work through the end. But the only way to do that is to have a bigger contract, to actually pay staff for what they're doing, or to have other staff do additional work, because we don't have enough support. So I can't tell you why in the past the contract was more and then was reduced significantly, but staff have continued to do the same amount of effort. But I can say that I recommend that the dollar amount be $125,000 for a contract with the LRTA in order to perform our best work for the course of for the year. That is my recommendation to you. And all that you're doing with the resolution is you're authorizing me to sign a contract. This is not an application. This is not necessarily that outcome that we do end up with these dollar amounts, but it is what I would prefer if we're going to move forward in order to do more effective work. That's my recommendation. So I realized that this took some time to put together, and I also went back in time to figure out when in the past this has been brought to the council. And it turns out that most times it's actually in October, except for the last few years when it's come to you in December. But it usually comes up earlier in the federal fiscal year to have a discussion about it, to have it be a little bit more meaningful and not just have you sign off on something. There's probably some years where it was the other way around, and I can't speak to that. But so we'll try to make it clear that this year, in this calendar year, we'll bring this to you in October so that we can have a better discussion about it and not have the whatever happened prior to this meeting happen again.
I know you got a lot on your plate, whether it even adds some insight to it, whether it's worth it. But if we go back to the minutes, some of those meetings,
Yeah,
see if it would give you some insight. I don't know.
I
Interesting.
didn't get a lot from the minutes.
Okay,
really.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I did go back in time though to 2011 to get a sense of things.
Yeah,
I have a little bit of insight into that, if you don't mind.
Justin is
Yeah.
offering insight.
Yeah,
Please.
please do.
So this contract comes through the tip, this 5307 funding. The LRTA applies for this funding, and they apply for a certain amount, this year being $125,000 for transit planning, in which NMCOG provides that service. The tip goes up and down depending on the amount of funding available from the FTA to the LRTA for this program. So I can't tell you for certain what the numbers were in 2011. I'd have to go back and look, but it does go up and down depending on the amount of money available. And in the past, there's been less money available. Right now, there's a lot of money available with the IIJA. So, I mean, I fully support this $125,000 ask on this resolution.
And Justin, would it be fair to say then really the mindset was, regardless of the amount of funds that were available, we're basically going to provide the service, the same service we had been providing? Is that?
Pretty much it's been similar types of service. A lot of data collection and a lot of transit system surveillance from our transit planner.
But also GIS.
And yes, and of course GIS, because our GIS person provides that service to the LRTA.
And that's actually my main concern, is having enough money to do the GIS work, which I observe is an area where we need a little extra support. Either we need an IT person or we need to have a full-time GIS person. But that and that's a separate conversation for another time. But I do think that fully funding this program adequately is important.
It's fully funding
Wow.
the same money.
It's the same money, but we're asking for more through this application. That's the 125,000. So this
What was
past
the
year
number
was
back in 2011.
2011, it was 107,000. 2012, it was 100,000. 2014, 100,000 again. I don't know what 2013 I couldn't find 2013.
That's all.
So skip. 2015 was 103,000, 16, 102,000. And then in 2017, it became 75,000. And for every year since then, it's been $75,000.
Oh.
But to Justin's point, we're flooded with federal money right now. There's no reason we shouldn't, one, ask for an amount that actually is appropriate to our staffing capacity.
That was my question.
And two, you know, make it be more relevant to the transit system we need.
Question, Jenny. Jenny, on item number 4, I'm just curious, LRTA, do they request specific projects that they want NMCOG to work on? Do you have a list of those things since they applied to the FTA for that amount of grant money they're looking for? How's that work?
Those are those 4 tasks. They're like 4
Okay.
big kind of tasks. It's and I'm just giving you the high level task description. Justin also mentioned it, but it's mapping, data collection and analysis, transit system performance. I think it's performance surveillance. Is that right? And then regional transit planning.
So do they
Those are like the
request,
4 big tasks.
oh, sorry, do they request from NMCOG specifically what they want you to do for them, tasks?
It's very detailed in the contract. Yes.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm missing. Okay,
Yeah, I brought a copy of the contract in a draft form here, but I don't, and I'm glad to share it around if you're really interested.
no, I'm just
But it's
wondering,
quite
yeah,
detailed.
where all the meat was on this, that's fine.
That's where the meat goes.
And Steve, there's more information in our UPWP, our work program as
Right.
well, which lists a lot of the tasks
I-
for each of those.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is for this fiscal year then, right?
It's technically this calendar year,
This calendar year. Okay,
technically January through December.
okay.
This is pretty straightforward, Mr. Chairman. We do this every year. You know,
Right.
why not ask for as much as you can get?
No, I don't disagree.
And if that's the money that's in the budget, then
Sure.
it should be asked for.
I was just more curious about exactly what tasks NMCOG's given to LRTA. But like Justin says in the information that's supplied to us annually, right? With the TIP?
In our work program.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, all the tasks are very detailed in the contract.
Mhm.
The high level is that it you know, are those 4 categories, and it basically involves 2 staff. One is the transit planner and the other is the GIS specialist, primarily, but not exclusively.
Okay, thank you.
So going forward, we'll be like taking Justin his comments in terms of the ebbs and flows of this money, like flush today, like, empty tomorrow. I would think we can introduce some discipline in terms of the amount of services we would provide, given that an ed time versus a full time year.
That would be the ideal situation, yes. Yeah, all you're doing right now is endorsing me to, making a resolution for me to engage in a contract.
Yep.
And when I do that, we'll talk about the funding available, we'll talk about the tasks, and we'll sharpen the pencil at that point in time. But I wanted to get to the high amount. If I need to, we'll scale back from there.
We need a motion on this.
Should the date be corrected? This is now therefore on a meeting of
Oh, does
December
it still
10th,
say December?
and then at the bottom. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's January, right?
Mhm.
It's another year. Right?
Mine have a good date on it.
I might be bringing up.
I think there's another one at the top.
Oh, that's
December date, yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
Well, there's 2 copies roaming around, but we've got it corrected on the screen. And I'll make sure that we use the correct version.
Using the correct date, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll put that in form of a motion.
Second. Barry and then
Andrew,
aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pat,
excuse me.
Paul,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Dan,
Was it, excuse me, was there a
Aye.
motion?
Yes, there
Motion,
was.
Motion by Jared, seconded by Darren.
Okay, thank you.
sorry.
Dan, yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking. Jerry,
Aye.
Chuck,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Anita,
Aye.
and Darren.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, unless I missed it, we didn't have a motion on the minutes or the financial report.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did it. We did it.
Okay, I'll listen to it on those. Thanks.
All right, moving on to report from the executive director. Jen.
Right. Just put this back up.
That's fine.
My mission.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm gonna give everybody a headache again. Way down here. All right. I just want to give some highlights again, as always. All right, so regional transportation plan, I think everybody is familiar with what's happening, but just a quick note on this. We had a focus group meeting today, actually, or yesterday, I'm sorry, and it was very, I was unable to attend, but Justin is here, and it was a really great, very well attended meeting, a lot of participation. And there's another meeting tomorrow. So there's still, of course, if you wanted to sign up or join that meeting, you're welcome to do that. It's talking about transit planning. We've also scheduled the next forum for March 22nd. And we hope that you can get that on your calendars and attend the meeting. We've had a lot of engagement, I think, in the survey as well. And there's a lot of interest in general and people participating in all of the municipal conversations that we've held. Most recently, as well as the upcoming meeting with UMass Lowell. There's another meeting with Middlesex 3. And in general, my observation is that it's been a very, very engaging process and with more to come. And I hope that you can put on your calendar the March meeting, because that'll be the second meeting where we talk about priorities and some prioritization of projects and work moving forward. I also wanted to highlight that at the March meeting, actually pausing here for a second, weights and measures, we actually hired somebody to be the deputy sealer, thankfully, and that person is beginning on January 30th. His name is Mark Normandin, and we're not pronouncing it right, probably. And Mark will be joining us very soon. As I said, he does need training. He'll be working with Dave Tilton, and Dave has been wonderful for many months now, covering the job of 2 people. And we're looking forward to having Dave back in transportation planning. We started on accounting, which of course begins in the spring. But in the meantime, he'll help to onboard this new person, and that's we're really looking forward to that. We also started Westford weights and measures work this past month. Because as you may recall, we signed a contract to do their work for the next 6 months, and they anticipate doing that, of course, over the next year as well, like all of our other communities. The said annual reporting is happening right now, and we are planning for some upcoming working group meetings. Chris Hayes has designed a process where the SEDS committee is going to be doing like a half-day work session to work on the goals and the schedule of goals, and getting input on all of the annual reporting. And we anticipate bringing the SEDS report to this group just for your endorsement at the March meeting. We also have been trying to get all of our communities on board for a regional digital equity program. This is a program that would be funded by the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. And we're hoping that the city of Lowell will be the lead applicant, because we understand that that will be the best position for the application to be funded. And I don't have a status on their level of participation, but we do have 6 communities that are tentative or committed to participating, including many of the municipalities in the room right now. The other thing I wanted to note is we have been working with the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission on something called the Merrimack River Collaborative. Wasn't called that previously. It was really just like a Merrimack River water quality group. And they were monitoring the quality of the river with a bunch of different nonprofit partners. This is MVPC and the Merrimack River Watershed Council. They want to move that into something more formal. And so they're filing an act to create this collaborative. I think it would be a great opportunity, potentially could lead to other funding and resources specifically for the city of Lowell, but potentially others as well, because Merrimack River is part of our region. With individual assistance to municipalities, a lot of the work that we've been doing has been in progress. It's very much a lot of hardworking people right now. Either who had deadlines at the end of December or who are just starting projects now. Most of you know that we got a late start on DLTA projects. So some projects from this current or last contract year are still just kicking off. And those include our assistance to MBTA communities. For the assistance to MBTA communities, we've helped 3 of our communities to file action plans. It's not necessarily filed yet. That's the interim compliance step, but we've drafted them or reviewed them and provided feedback or are presenting them to various select boards. So a lot of work on MBTA communities, and with thanks to Chris Hayes, Carlin, and Jeff. The other thing I wanted to note is that the Lowell Housing Production Plan, we have a pretty significant public forum coming up in the spring. But the kickoff meeting for the Lowell plan, because the housing plan is actually part of that master planning process, is actually kicking off on February 1st. And I anticipate that it'll be a very interesting planning meeting. And I'm sure that people from any community could participate. And I would encourage you to, because I think that they're going to have some really interesting participatory processes at that meeting on display. And it might be something that you attend and bring some ideas back to your own communities. Chris Hayes and I have been participating in a lot of the conversations on that process just for the housing plan. But he's also serving on the steering committee for the city. All of our other housing work is in progress and there's various workshops and things to attend. And the last thing that I wanted to note is, I think I mentioned this the last month, but we started this Northern Middlesex Municipal CEO group. It is basically the area, town and city managers and administrators getting together monthly and talking about issues of common concern. And those issues are housing, infrastructure, and regional collaboration. And they had their second meeting this month, and all of their meetings have been scheduled through April. The next meeting, they're planning to talk about regional homelessness and ways that municipalities and other partners in the region can continue to address those issues. And I distributed here, but not to the group necessarily participating on Zoom, but I sent around the call for project ideas. This has been, we extended the deadline from this Friday to February 10th. We had a lot of people ask for a little bit more time to file their project ideas with us. And so we've made that extension, and I'm glad to answer any questions about that process. The last thing is that I would love to know who is planning to attend the strategic planning retreat. I have not heard from everybody, and at this point, I think I only have about maybe 5 or 6 people who have confirmed, and I don't know that that will make a good retreat. So I want to make sure that I've got a good group of people who are able to get together and do that for 3 hours. And if it's not the right day, then we'll find another day to do it. But so I want to ask that question, but I'll pause to see if anybody has questions about my report.
Jenny,
Yes.
may I ask who you have that is attending that session?
I don't have the confirmation list in front of me.
Oh, just wondering what communities. stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
think I received a text that I said I would be able to attend. Did you guys get that?
we did.
Okay,
Okay.
I know I sent mine
Mary is
too.
helping.
I forwarded it to, yes, you're on.
I RSVP.
Okay,
It showed it as canceled in the email for some reason. Is that? It's
For some
still the
reason,
same?
the meeting invitation that I sent around went nuts and started emailing people about 5 times in one day.
All right, that wasn't just me.
No, it
Oh, I
wasn't
did see that.
any of you. It wasn't you. Apparently it was me. I don't know what happened. So I deleted that completely and I sent basically just an email that says, we're having a strategic planning session, so you can put it on your own calendar.
Yeah.
Because my calendar invitation went nuts and I don't know what happened.
gotta take your finger off a send.
Yeah, exactly. So the meeting is on January 28th
Okay.
at from 10 to 1. And it's in Chelmsford at the public library. Thank you to Pat for scheduling the location.
So does that mean if you don't get enough of participation, you're not gonna have this retreat?
I think we need more participation than 6.
How many?
I think upwards of double digits would be preferable.
We have 19 people technically on our council.
Okay,
So not all of the seats on our council are filled either. Some communities do not participate in any council meeting. So it would be nice for all of the participants who are members of the council to be participating in a strategic planning session for the agency. It's the first time the agency, I think, has done it in I don't know how long.
The time I've been on, we haven't done it.
People who've been serving on the council for how many years?
so you like to get one from each.
14 years, have no recollection of doing it
22, I
before.
think.
So special invitation to attend.
So Jenny, your aim would be at least to get one representative from each community. Is that how you're looking at it?
I'd certainly love to have at least one representative from our 9
Thanks for volunteering.
communities.
There you go. I'm pushing.
Steve, we'd like to have
Jenny, you
I
can put me
volunteer.
in.
everybody, Steve.
I mean, I'm just
Hold
gonna,
on.
I'm just gonna put a little plug because I think, you know, for all the people who are really invested in the hiring process of the
Mhm.
executive director and having Jenny on board, we were all really invested in her interview, really like, you know, vocal about the direction of the agency.
Mhm.
This is continuing that discussion. This is our stamp individually, not just as a town, of where is NMCOG going to go or where can it go. So it's just taking that energy from her interview and operationalizing it in starting with the strategic planning retreat.
Well said, Anita.
So I'll see you there, right, Steve?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Yeah,
You could put my name on there too, this is
there
Chuck.
you go.
Thank you, Chuck.
Great.
I coach on Saturday. It's a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bring your team with you.
Yeah, I'd love it. Better than losing every week. I blame it on the coach. He's terrible.
Are there any other comments aside from attendance on the executive director? Okay, well, for folks who couldn't attend tonight, let's spread the word about 28th of all possible.
Please.
All right, and now we're on to community exchange.
Do we vote on it?
We did not.
Do we?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Launch the community exchange. Anyone have something to exchange? Or it's not the right size?
I just have to something quick. Pepperell had the first meeting with the zoning revision working group for the town center district bylaw last week. It's a continuation of the process from One Stop for Growth that we have funding for to look at rezoning over through Pepperell, Railroad Square up to the Rotary. Peter Fitzpatrick, I talked about that, I think, a couple months ago. But we're looking at basically a form-based code, affordable housing components, shared parking, all the good stuff that planners look at and try to focus or refocus, dragging more development in that district along the Railroad Square. It's about a mile and a quarter district from downtown Pepperell to the Peter Fitzpatrick. So this working group are all department heads from the communities that are participating. And we thought we'd have something ready for a spring town meeting, but looks like it's probably gonna be fall town meeting. So we're working with the consultant, Ted Brovich, which is a zoning consultant. So hopefully we'll be looking at something for maybe late fall or maybe early next year, depending on how everything works out. So we're meeting once a month. They were looking forward to getting some economic development stimulation along that corridor. That's been kind of stagnant for a while, and we get design guidelines in place to help us too. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, and I just wanted to just give a quick update on that. Thanks.
Can I just ask a question? Steve, did you say you guys were considering form-based zoning?
Yeah, it's a form-based code. Yeah, there's certain
Okay.
aspects of it that's included in the base code. They talked about a mixed-use overlay district originally, but they decided to go back to just a basic base code that would incorporate just zoning for, one-time use for developers and so forth. So they don't have much of an option there per se, but it's something that we're working together. We just had our first meeting, so we're kind of brainstorming. People come up with different ideas, how we can implement those ideas. Having areas for shared parking, for example, is a good one, which Pebble does not have in the bylaws at this point. Green spaces, things that we don't really incorporate in our zoning at this time. So it's a lot of moving parts right now. So hopefully in the next maybe 2 or 3 meetings, we kind of hone things down a little bit better and have more to discuss and bring back to the table. So then, of course, we go to town meeting for this too, to get approval.
Form-based zoning, Steve, we have in the Hamilton Canal District here, and it's worked out well. I mean, it expedites the process. And basically, the planning board pre-approved the placement of the buildings, the scale, and
Exactly.
that's what you want to go with, you go forward. George Proakis, obviously, was the one that orchestrated that. And if you can remember, we had him on retainer here at NMCOG for a while.
I do remember.
There's gonna be some more work on that, but yeah.
So again, we're just, we're a small community, Jerry, so we just touch upon that. But we're trying to incorporate some of those ideas into our zoning, our base zoning. Along along that particular corridor, obviously, we're a rural community and we gotta take things small steps at a time to get buy-in.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Steve.
You're welcome.
Any other
Yeah.
comment? Chris?
Yeah,
I
so,
Hang on, Chris, I'll go with Bill first.
Oh, sorry.
so Drake, it is currently rewriting their zoning bylaws that were last written in 1985. So what's
Has that
kind of
changed?
well, Jerry could probably fill you in with a lot of the drama. But that brings me regarding the MBTA zoning, because I know what they have been kind of discussing it, but not have really given it a placeholder as far as all the planning. And I was wondering when would be an opportune time for staff from NMCOG to come in, because they meet once a month.
This is the zoning review committee.
Correct.
Yeah, Chris Hayes has already been working in consultation with Allison to figure out the best.
Oh,
time for
Allison
that.
Minuccia.
Minuccia,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, good.
So I think it'll be probably at some point during the spring.
Okay, very good.
Chris, go ahead.
So currently right now, there's 2 things. We just recently passed a mixed use project on 279 Boston Road that added 2 additional, it was a smaller project, added 2 additional affordable handicap accessible units, and it overall was 20 units. The project has a retail space and a restaurant, and on the top of that, we're working with, we're gonna hopefully with the LRTA, they're gonna put like a bus stop there that is handicapped accessible as well, once everything gets approved, probably with MassDOT. And so that will be a new area for a bus stop there. And they also added bike racks and some free bicycles for the residents in perpetuity. They also they were trying to get a boat ramp there as well, but that was didn't seem really that feasible, so instead the planning board, Erica gave him an estimate and he got us about $22,000 for the boat ramp there. So I think that overall the project went really well and added some affordability. And then the other thing that we have going on with the zoning bylaw review committee, we're currently in the process of doing a zoning audit. So we're gonna, I'm on the zoning bylaw review committee, and but I'm also obviously on the planning board here. So that is going to be a meeting on June 30th. I mean, not June, sorry, January 30th. We're going to meet together and kind of go discuss that audit and further details on that. And hopefully soon, well, I know Erica's already kind of got a plan kind of with an approximate timeline for the MBTA, the guidance there, and obviously probably working with Jen on that. So yeah, that's the update that I have for Borka.
Well, thanks, Chris, and just to highlight that 279 Boston Road project in Borica has been controversial generally, and I think Chris and colleagues made a good, solid vote on a solid project. So just kudos to Chris and his and the team on that. So
I think they deserve a lot of credit. It was voted down last year,
Yeah.
and they went back to the well, and it was a very, very good meeting.
It was a very good meeting, well run participation. Yeah, I think we're having a housing update on MBTA on Monday.
Monday night, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that development.
Anything else for anyone? Sure. Next, reminders and announcements. We'll remind you of the January 28th meeting. That's not on the sheet here, but
No, it's not.
tell your friends.
Probably should.
The next business meeting, though.
Next regular meeting is on February 15th. Any other things we need to touch on?
Yeah, just one other thing I wanted to mention, I think folks are probably pretty up to date with this, but and I don't know if anything has changed with open meeting law or if and when something will change after March, but as you may know, the end of March is the end of Zoom meetings for public bodies unless something changes. So I just wanted to get this on your radar now because some of you are participating remotely right now. And you would be required to you would need a quorum here. There is no currently there's not the ability to participate with this sort of hybrid setup in open meeting law. Again, unless something changes with legislation or state law. Currently, there's been bills filed. Prior administration had tried to move that forward. It did not get finalized. The Mass Municipal Association has talked about it, has also been working on something. Again, as of the end of March, so the April meeting, everybody would need to be here in person unless something changes. So I just wanted to get that on your radar now, so that whatever that date is, sorry, I don't have it on the agenda, but the third Wednesday of the month, you'd need to be at our offices in Lowell. And we can
April 19th.
April 19th. If that is an issue with you getting here or parking or any of those things that you may not be used to when coming to our office, we can talk about it at that time. But I just want to put it that that change may be happening soon.
Okay.
Well,
Do we get detention if we don't show up?
I'm not in charge
Yes.
of that.
Let's hope that the legislation can get something done
Yes,
quickly.
ideally.
That would be the stifling impact to.
I gotta find my keys.
I have just a quick question. I don't even know if we asked tonight. Just wondering where you are with office space.
Oh,
And,
yeah, sure.
Search.
I was gonna put that on next month's agenda, but I can give an update right now. Basically, I started a conversation today with the current landlord. To talk with them about what the possibilities were with the current space, looking ahead at a future lease potentially, what are what are they thinking about with the property? Because right now their next big project, which apparently is starting soon, is they're changing all of our windows. And it's gonna go, of course, floor by floor and likely be quite disruptive if anybody has been through a window replacement project in a historic building. So it's, that's where I started because the lease subcommittee asked me to start with where I am now. And also to investigate what are the sort of other office space possibilities in Lowell, which is the only place that I'm looking right now. And so I have a bunch of dates to get tours of various places in Lowell where there's current, it's basically where there's current office space. But what will happen is that once I go back to the lease subcommittee, we'll have a conversation about this and we'll start to put together an RFP. Because no matter what happens, we still have to reissue and we have to issue an RFP.
Sure, ball's rolling.
Yeah, it will be later in the process, though. The first step that I wanted to work on is what are the possibilities here? I went and toured around the building and saw how other people carve up their spaces. It's still not exactly great, but I did start the conversation at least to get it, you know, flowing and see what they're thinking of the property. And I'm meeting with people for tours. So now I don't have to put it on the meeting in February.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, it was, it was very today, so.
I just knew what the process was the last time when we moved
Yeah.
out of the garage. It was not an overnight process. And we toured, I think, four sites.
Mhm.
One of them, some people got stuck in the elevator, so that one a quick one. So, but
A big move would be very disruptive to this agency. I don't know how on earth they did it last time, and Justin and I actually happened to be talking about this earlier.
Yep.
That is not my ideal situation. It's ideally to stay here, but to make a lot of improvements. And this is a mill building, basically. I mean, it's designed like a mill building, so there's actually so much flexibility with this space, but for the way that it was built out here. So there's some possibilities, but they would of course cost money. And we'll figure out what that is when I have more answers.
The motivation, Jenny, the last time was that space was so bad that they were moving out of, that it really was awful environment.
It was a bad space. It
An
was
awful
cold.
environment.
and
Yeah.
Stories.
Yeah.
You could see the garage. There was just, I mean, it was unbelievable.
How long has NMCOG been here?
Since 2008 or 9.
Oh, wow.
I think it was, yeah, 7 or 8, yeah, something like that.
So yeah, so we had a long-term lease and we've gotten some extensions basically on the lease, and now that's the end of the extensions this year. So we have to do an RFP and I'm doing the investigating.
I remember being appointed and then being told I had to go to the Gallagher garage for the meeting.
You couldn't get trucks up in there, so they had to move everything out with pickup trucks
Oh,
down to a moving truck down at the bottom of the ramps, at the bottom of the garage.
yeah.
It was a real pain. It was a real pain. It took a long time.
Well, every time we get a new staff person, it costs money too.
Mm.
And it's the same thing. We're trying to fit out office space. We're trying to reimagine things and everything has a cost to it. So I'm sensitive to the costs we're incurring right now. And then what it would take to actually move the cost on our availability when we're basically not inoperable for like possibly 2 weeks. Things are kind of in fluctuation, and I'm minimizing the impacts on staff and productivity would be the ideal, but having the best work situation and environment for people to work for the next decade is also kind of important. So there might be some trade-offs.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, kind of relevant. So,
One advantage we have is remote work now. We didn't have that back then. You know, we have the ability to work at home, so that might minimize it somewhat.
yes,
I'll change it a little bit.
yeah, definitely.
Somewhat less paid. I would hope.
Nope,
Yeah,
nobody would ever dare work from home in 2008.
we didn't do it.
Just imagining. No, I wouldn't have.
Any other questions or comments? That was a good question.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. No, thank you for asking.
Here and none, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Phil. I'll just take it as unanimous. Thanks, everyone.
I.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week. See ya.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.